Good evening. The book of Ecclesiastes tells us that there's a time for everything and a season for every activity under the sun. I want to focus on four of these: a time to be born and a time to die, a time to tear down and a time to build, a time to weep and a time to laugh, a time to mourn and a time to dance. Welcome to all of you who have taken time to share in this farewell of our dad, Jasper Henderson Mahon. Due to the COVID 19 restrictions, a small number of us are physically gathered here in the chapel of Earl's funeral home. Glad that we are here. But let me acknowledge those of you who are viewing us on the YouTube stream. Thanks for viewing. Special welcome to you who can't be in Barbados, mainly Linda, Gregory, and Nicholas of the USA, and Susan and Kentley of the UK. Cousin Jean, also of the USA. Indeed, I welcome all of our relatives and friends from far and wide. Welcome, everyone. I will go straight into the eulogy for Jasper Henderson Mahon. Tall and stately in stature, unique in character, unorthodox in beliefs, and very private. That was our dad, one of a kind. No fuss, no frills. We, the family, know that he would not have wanted this event, but this is our way of closure and saying farewell. Jasper Henderson Mahon was born on the 29th of April, 1938. He was the only surviving son of Cecil Coleridge Mahon and Hilda Elmina Mahon, née Sobers. His only sister, Gloria Gibbs, passed 4 years ahead of him in 2017. Ironically, they both died at the age of 82. Young Jasper left Barbados around 1960, bound for the UK in search of a better life. He braved the cold weather, loneliness, and racism. In 1961, Joyce joined him, leaving their little Angela to be raised by her aunt Gloria. Jasper and Joyce were married in 1962, and that union produced 4 UK-born daughters: Wendy, Linda, Janet, and Susan. In 1964, Jasper sent for Angela. She met her 2 sisters, Wendy and Linda, for the first time. He worked as a carpenter and a foreman on many buildings across London. Unfortunately, he did not like the bitter cold and longed to return to his sunny Barbados. This eventually happened in 1972. His 1970, his obsession and love for the sea compelled him to treat his family to a 2-week cruise aboard a French liner, the Antilles. His desire was for the family to visit many of the Caribbean islands, and so we visited Guadeloupe, St. Lucia, Grenada, and Curacao, to mention a few. On arrival in Barbados, he set about building the home at Ashton Hall and raised his family. Jasper lived a full life. He enjoyed music, dancing, animals, and the beach. He leaves behind his wife Joyce, 5 daughters: Angela, Wendy, Linda, Janet, and Susan. 6 grandchildren: Kirk, Cara, Gregory, Ronaldo, Kentley, and Nicholas. 2 great-grandchildren: Seneve and Asher, cousins and friends. This evening, we will reflect on some aspects of Jasper's life, the thoughts we treasured most. Okay. At this point, I will read my tribute to my dad. Jasper, the Tower of Strength. Simplicity he used to survive. The words of reggae artist Sizzla Kalonji. My dad lived a very simple, uncomplicated life. A hardworking, independent, resilient man. These traits he surely passed on to us, his offspring, because he was truly a tower of strength. It was his joy to know that his 5 daughters relied on no one. I do believe, however, that Daddy approved of our partners, but he encouraged us to get our education and to become self-sufficient. Daddy was a carpenter, but he fancied himself as a jack of all trades. Prince, right over there, Daddy's protege, told us that Dad would often say, what Dad would often say when he fixed something. Don't call me MacGyver, call me Jassifer. The family home in Ashton Hall is testament of these fix-it skills. You see, Daddy was known for his creative solutions. He often traded aesthetics for functionality. Some examples of our family home, at our family home, were the unique burglar bars and the pancart tire that was filled with concrete, much to his detriment. It was too heavy to push thereafter. He, however, developed into a master contractor later on. And across Barbados, from St. Lucie to St. Philip, you will find splendid houses built by the hands of Jasper Mahon. He believed in providing for his family. Hence, he indulged in many activities to supplement the household, rearing of chickens, pigs, and sheep, as well as vegetable gardening were some of the subsidies we had. Through my eyes, Daddy was a tower of strength. I cannot remember him having any fears. He was our protector. No guns, according to the belief of the guys in our day. We went to bed nightly feeling safe. I remember one night we were in the TV room and a big 40-legger ambled across the floor. Every man Jack scrambled up onto the sofa screaming, "Daddy, Daddy, Daddy," who was in the adjoining living room sleeping. Immediately, he sprang into action, grabbed the shoe or whatever was in his near to his hand at the time and smashed it. Had it been smaller, he would have smashed it with his bare hands. When Wendy moved to her home, Daddy made many trips to kill critters, all hours of the night. This lasted a while until he put his foot down. No more trips. What did she learn? Independence. Dad encouraged us to free our minds, and he encouraged open-mindedness. Never were we to allow to follow the crowd or be overly bothered about what people had to say about us. We faced criticism at a young age. In England, there were the racial slurs, and in Barbados, the adverse comments, first of all, about our British accent or the way we walked, which was on our toes at the time. But that taught us how to be strong and how to manage these circumstances. Usually the replies to these people were very sarcastic and stung. He said we had to stand up for ourselves and let no one take the mickey out of us. He taught us to be analytical and to think for ourselves, not to take everything from television and radio as gospel. And we also learned that we were Black girls. So it was no surprise that we grew up watching examples of Black excellence, like Sonny Liston, Joe Frazier, and Muhammad Ali boxing. We learned about the contributions of Rosa Parks and Martin Luther King. We listened to the music of Ella Fitzgerald and Miriam Makeba. We were enlightened of our race very early in life. My dad knew the importance of this to the extent that he never bought us a white doll. Daddy and I didn't always see eye to eye. Being the first child, I believe I was the guinea pig, the trial for his parenting skills. And I so became a shield in many ways for my little sister. My mouth was full and I had a quick tongue, which always landed me in trouble with this gentleman. I always had a rebuttal, especially for accusations that were not true. I learned phrases like, girl, I ain't gonna rain on your parade, or I ain't raising you twice. All of this for getting into daddy's bad books. Mommy often begged me to keep the peace. And I would simply reply, peace what? And made sure I got my point across. You know what? He was the same. Dad, you're at peace now. Farewell, our tower of strength. Rest assured that your legacy of simplicity, hard work, independence, and resilience will live on throughout the generations. Rest peacefully, Daddy.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Wendy, Daddy's second daughter, and I am here to give my farewell to Ja. I am here to give my farewell to Ja, as we cheekily used to refer to him when we were youngsters. I am going to put my spotlight on a little bit that was the dash between where he started and where he is now. You may hear a couple of references which might sound like repetition, but we all had the same dad. Daddy was a carpenter by trade. As a teenager, he apprenticed with a friend of his father's and learned the trade of carpentry. He went to England in his 60s, and there he worked for various construction firms and was always known as a diligent and hard worker. In one of the many chats I used to have with Daddy over the years, he told me it was while he was in England that an old carpenter he worked with at a firm taught him how to quickly and efficiently install locks and doors. This really worked for him, as he told me he often got to work indoors, hanging the doors and installing locks instead of working on the outdoors. Why was this significant, you would ask? Because this was England. It's either raining cats or dogs, or it is miserably cold. Another occasion when this ability to quickly install locks served him in very good stead was when Hayward's Hotel was being constructed, and his quick work with lock installation was noticed by the foreman. He was then selected and offered job work to just install locks, and it turned out to be a very cushy job for him with a hefty payday, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Daddy returned home to Barbados in 1970. He started out by working with the construction firms, but he came to the conclusion that the meager wage earned working for them was not enough to raise a family of seven. He needed to increase his earning capacity quickly. As Anne said, Daddy ventured into backyard gardening, chicken farming, sheep and pig rearing. Thank God not all at the same time, because his workforce was his 5 girls and his wife. So, and for me, to not put too fine a point on it, I hate outside work. Always a stray creepy collie to be seen. I will not speak for my sisters, but I suspect they felt the same way. These side ventures were all reasonably successful over the years, But the most significant change that he made was to become a self-employed person. He became a builder. This was not as difficult a transition as you may think, as Daddy, along with his trusty work gang of four daughters and a wife, Susan was too small at the time, it was five. He built the family home, which we lived in after coming home in 1970. You would think that him being a carpenter, he would have built a wooden house. But no, sir. Daddy was determined that the risk of our home being burnt because of the fact that we lived surrounded by canes was too high. Therefore, he built a wall house, which to this day is still standing firm. Daddy was a jack of all trades, independent, resourceful, generous, and honest, always willing to lend a hand. I have interacted with many of the trade and workmen that Daddy worked with over the years, and they all said that everyone wanted to work with Mahon. He was a fair boss, and most importantly, always paid you on Friday. Daddy also gained the reputation of being the go-to builder contractor. If you wanted to have your house built without the STAL steel that to this day plagues the construction industry. As a matter of fact, there was a point in time that if a person applied for a mortgage at Barclays Bank, once you qualified for that mortgage and you told them the builder was Mr. Mahon, the application was approved. No further questions asked. The lenders at Barclays over the years recognized that Daddy's projects did not have overruns, finished on schedule, and the workmanship was of excellent quality. Indeed, as a good friend of mine, Donna, told me just last week in offering words of comfort, she said, "We can never forget Dad. We all lived in the houses that he built." And this is very true. As Anne said, from St. Lucie to St. Philip, and that includes a lot of my personal friends. Daddy built their houses. He built my house. He built Janet's house. He built Auntie Gloria's house, his sister, Uncle Ivan, Mummy's parents, many, many, many more. I worked closely with Daddy over the years, managing the accounting, the administrative, and producing the estimates for the clients. But Lord, that man was stubborn. He was always tardy bringing receipts, and he never told me early enough about the change request from the clients. But when he and the client were not agreeing on the final bill, without fail, this man would turn up at my house on Sunday afternoon with a shoebox full of receipts and invoices. He was now ready to reconcile the accounting for the job. I used to be so mad. But I would sit and unravel the mess for him so he could meet with the client next business day with an audit of the expenditure on the job. Daddy did not mix matters when it came to money. He didn't like to borrow as he hated owing. He never allowed bills to accumulate. Bills had to be paid on time. It was something he instilled in all of us. He was that person who would always pay off the hire purchase within 3 months. But more often than not, his purchases were cash. When we were younger, we used to call them old money bags. Daddy also believed that by the sweat of your brow you will eat. He did not believe in handouts. We had to earn our pocket money, but one sure thing was once your chores and assigned tasks were done to his satisfaction, he was generous with the payout. Daddy had 5 girls, and he never treated us as delicate, but he was always protective. He was determined that we would be independent and resourceful. There was no such thing as girl jobs and boy jobs. They were all jobs, and they all needed to be done. I recall just Daddy and myself putting on the roof on the house that he built for Mummy's parents. It was hot, hard work and took the whole weekend. I was about 13 or 14 at the time. And yes, I did get paid. Another time, I recall when just out of secondary school, I had no money. Daddy told me I could come on his job site and work as a laborer. Yes, I went. And for 5 days, I sieved sand, filled buckets with mortar, and handed up bricks. My biceps got muscle bound, and I was in pain, but I went back each day and finished out the week. There were no quitters for Daddy. And yes, I got paid a full week's wage for a laborer. And no, I did not go back. It is by the sweat of your brow, not by your 16-year-old poor aching muscle bone biceps that you shall eat. No, I didn't go back. Also, just know I was the lone female on that job site, but not a boy said an improper word or looked at me the wrong way. Everyone knew I was Jazz's daughter and off limits. Daddy loved music and he was always hopeful. One of his children or his grandchildren will learn to play an instrument, preferably the piano. As life goes, despite his acquiring a piano for us as little girls, he gave his grandsons, Rinaldo and Kent, gifts of toy pianos one Christmas. He even bought a whole Yamaha keyboard for Kurt when he was little, old money bags, and offered to pay for the piano lessons. It was not to be, sadly. Daddy had a large record collection, which include plenty of classical, jazz, and instrumental pieces. He loved organ music and listening to an orchestra. He liked his music loud. I do not know if it was because he was half deaf or if he just wanted to feel the music vibrating through him. The number of times he woke up the whole house early Sunday morning loudly playing records are countless. And in later years, we were thankful when he graduated to wearing headphones. Still, with the volume up to all, but now he was talking to you at the top of his voice because the headphones are on. Daddy was a complex person. He presented as a very stern, strict, no-nonsense individual. When he wanted quiet in the house, it was, let me hear my ears. And he only said it once. Daddy expected you to use your brain. And one of his favorite things to say when he was exasperated with something you'd done was to say, you silly, think. Does that look right to you? And don't talk about when you were assisting him with work. I guess just Linda and I would know about this part. He expected you to anticipate what he needed and have it ready. Just like a surgeon operating and putting out his hand and saying scalpel, Daddy would put out his hand but say nothing. He expected you to be following what he was doing, so you should know what he needed, be it a saw, a 10-penny nail, a screwdriver. You should know. You had to be on the ball. Don't take forever to give him either, because he would earn you a glare and a deep inhale. Yet, for all of that, Daddy had a lighthearted side. He had an extremely offbeat sense of humor. Some would say it was gallows humor. He enjoyed a good laugh and loved to share a good joke, and there were many a family gathering where Daddy had everyone in stitches. Daddy was also prone to bouts of creativity. You always knew when the bug bit him, and he had an idea which needed to be worked on right away. He would be galvanized into action and he would be singing a tuneless song with one word, whine, 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 until he completed whatever it was that had fired him up. As Anne said, Daddy was also Mr. Fix-It. She told you about the episode with the pancart involving filling the wheel with cement because, as he said, it would never go flat again. True, but he can't push it now. He had hernia. It gave him a hernia. Another thing that he did, the dustbin lid used to fly off all the time, and in true form, fixed it. Concrete. Everything was concrete. He took the concrete and he put it into the cover of the dustbin, and he took a shower faucet and stick it in for the handle. Look pretty and everything. Problem with that is if you didn't know that that thing weighed nearly 20 pounds, you would put your back out. My poor mother to this day can't open her dustbin and it doesn't get open. None of that. I called him Mr. Concrete. Everything he was ready to throw concrete at, and at the drop of the hat. So yeah, that was him. I remember, right, one other thing I won't even get into, I'll give him this one. We had the rusting gas bottles that belonged to Rubis, and they were rusting, the base was rusting. True concrete on that too. But I'm going to forgive him for that one, as this happened after the dementia had taken hold. Daddy was always doing, moving, fixing something. This was not him. He did not stay quiet. But when he did want to stop and rest or take a relaxation, it would be outside in the shade enjoying a cool breeze. On a more personal note, one of the most important gifts that daddy gave me was helping me to raise my son. From the time Kent was 5 months old, I relied heavily on mommy and daddy to help me with childcare because my job involved night shifts and working overseas. Daddy has slept on the floor and given Kent his bed when he was an infant. He was the one who got up at night to take him to the toilet when it came to the weaning years. He took him to work with him during the school holidays because that's what you had to do. I'm at work. He gave him his first PlayStation because all the other grandchildren had and Kent didn't. He begged me to give Kent my old Excel, reasoning it would help him with college. And he told me he would make sure he got gas money weekly. And to his credit, every week, Kent had to come down work for it, but he got it. The list goes on. As a single mother, this was the greatest gift he could have given me. Daddy was one of the most industrious and well-read persons I've known. He prided himself on working hard and being knowledgeable about world affairs and what was going on around him. One of the hardest things for us as a family over the last 12 months was to watch Daddy lose his physical strength and his agile mind to dementia. Because he was independent and liked to be in control, we could not convince him to relinquish control of his life to us so we could help him. Little by little, sometimes by subterfuge and trickery, I took over and did my best to make his life as comfortable as I could make it. And trust me, it was not easy. On that last day, as I looked at Daddy lying in his bed, so still and forevermore quiet, it felt surreal and very, very hard to accept. The plug had been pulled on a presence that had been in my life all of my life. Daddy, you and I did not have the easiest of relationships. Both of us wanted to be in control, and oftentimes we did not see eye to eye. But I always respected you as my father. And as I look back, there are so many things I am grateful to you for. But the most important one was helping me to raise my son and always, always looking out for him and helping to shape him into the man he is today. Thank you, Daddy. Thank you. May your soul rest in peace.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for sharing this moment with us as we memorialize Jasper Henderson Mahon. He was my father, and today I will be giving a tribute to him as the confidence builder. I'm Linda King, and I'm his third daughter. He was Jasper or Jassy to many, but to his 5 daughters, he was Daddy. Yes, he produced 5 girls, no boys. And raising 5 girls must have been a daunting task to undertake, but he did it. His method was having a vice grip on us, especially when we wanted to make friends, especially with the boys, and then wanted to go out places with those friends. I guess it was always the fear that his precious girls would get into trouble and not finish their education. Daddy did put great emphasis on educating his girls, but also taught us to be hardworking, self-sufficient, and self-confident, and he taught by example. He left England with his family and the little possessions he had and made his way back to Barbados. Knowing he needed a home for us, he got to work right away building a house. Money was tight, but Daddy persevered. He got help from his buddies, and sure enough, his girls. He had us ram concrete, hammer nails, shovel sand, you name it, we did it. During summer vacations, we felt so ashamed to allow our friends going to the beach to see us pulling hand carts of sand, bricks, and cement blocks up our slope for the builders. But as our house progressed, our confidence grew, and soon it did not bother us. Who saw what we were doing? We were so excited because we would be moving into our own home. Daddy never liked his daughters to borrow from friends. That was an absolute no-no. I remember exchanging my watch with that of a friend's because I liked hers more. Needless to say, I only got to wear the watch home. The moment he saw it, he made me remove it, put it in my school bag, and told me to take it back to the owner and never bring it back home. Another time I remembered my sisters and I borrowed a Monopoly game from someone, and we were not allowed to play with it. He always told his girls never to look at what other people had, but be satisfied with what we had until we can do better. These are a few of the many examples of how Daddy instilled pride and confidence in his daughters. He wanted us to achieve our dreams just the way he did, by working and earning an honest living. From raising chickens to sell to St. Joseph's Hospital, to growing vegetables to sell to the supermarket, Daddy did what it took to provide for his family. He had no shame in his game. He was a man of pride and dignity. Daddy taught us well. He raised five beautiful, intelligent, hardworking, self-sufficient, yes, you guessed it, self-confident women. Whatever occupation each of us chose, we excelled in it. And I know this is due to the values Daddy instilled in us. It's one of the reasons I decided to do this video in my office because I know he was proud of me and the nurse that I became. He was a pillar of strength and determination. And that is how I will remember him. Farewell, Daddy. I will miss you. We will miss you.
Family and friends, good evening. I am Janet. I am Jasper's fourth daughter. Today, I'm going to remember Daddy as the father, the grandfather, and the great grandfather. Daddy loved his family and he was very generous. He was proud of his five girls and he adored his grandchildren and great grandchildren. Growing up as young children, we remember Daddy coming home from work daily. He would eat and lay on the floor and beckon us to come and comb and brush his hair, pick out his gray hairs, and pick the contact cement from his fingers. So you could just picture a big man stretched out on the floor, sleeping, of course, and four little girls grooming him. Susan was a baby at the time, but she also had grooming duties at some point in time. We grew up humble, but Daddy ensured that we did not go to sleep hungry and we had the necessities for school. He hated certain items for us. rubber slippers, or as he referred to them as go forwards or breaknecks. He detested that mommy bought them for us to wear at home, so we tried our best not to fall when running in them because he would have proven his point. He conceded grudgingly with the rubber slippers, but not the packets of Kool-Aid drink mix. No, no, no. He always told mommy not to buy that foolishness to dye up his children's stomach. Occasionally, daddy would treat us. He would bring home the pink and the white sugar cakes. He loved to make coconut punch, and he did that on Sunday mornings. He would chill it in the fridge, and we would have that with our Sunday lunch. Come to think of it, Daddy seemed to think he was a mixologist, though, because he used to make this concoction of mackerson, eggs, and plenty milk. And this too, he would chill in the fridge before giving everyone a small cupful. This drink was very tasty, but we also liked the fact that it was frothy, so we would end up with moustache when we drank it. Our first outing to the cinema was to watch Ben-Hur that was at the Globe Cinema. Thinking about it now, if you know Ben-Hur, that was set in Rome with lots of fighting and bloodshed. So I'm not sure how appropriate that film was, but we enjoyed the outing nevertheless. What was good is that we each got our own bag of popcorn and a fizzy drink. And this was significant because we had to share everything. We got to sit in the balcony. And one thing with Daddy, when he did anything, he went all the way. So no seating in the pit nor the house for us. We were in the balcony. Daddy was very protective of his girls. I remember one day coming home telling Daddy that some boy made a pass at me whilst I was walking home from school. Daddy's response was, "Get your two fingers and poke out his eyes." We seldom gave any mails or telephone number as Daddy used to occupy the chair next to the phone. If it rang, your heart would be thumping because you were afraid of what he would say. On a good night, you would get to take the call for no more than 2 minutes. When that time had elapsed, he would start to clear his throat. If you did not heed the warning in time, he would just reach back with his big finger and click. That was it. No warning. On a bad night now, he would answer the phone and all you would hear is a resounding no. And we would all be left in suspense and embarrassment, wondering who was on the other end of that phone. Unfortunately, all these things scared off all our suitors, as Daddy had a reputation in the neighborhood as having a gun, as Anne said. Needless to say, he never had one. And at that point in time, and he never had one at any point in time. As you know, Daddy had all girls. He always wanted a boy. So after a long wait, he was blessed with 5 grandsons, 1 granddaughter, 1 great-granddaughter, and 1 great-grandson. When the first grandchild, Kirk, came along, he was in granddad heaven. He fancied himself being instrumental in Kirk's cricketing career as he made Kirk his first little bat, and he also played cricket with him. 4 years later, along came Kiara, or Carabella, as Daddy affectionately referred to her. He would always greet her with, "Oh, little Carabella." 3 months later, another boy, Gregory Henderson, who, in my opinion, resembles his grandfather more so than any of the others. Daddy was pleased as punch that Linda gave Gregory his middle name. Gregory lives in the USA, so whenever he came home to visit, Daddy would always give him these long pep talks. Fast forward 4 years, another boy, Ronaldo. When I brought Ronaldo home and I said to Daddy, "His name is Ronaldo," Daddy exclaimed with a hearty chuckle, "Where are y'all getting all these strange names from? What about a good old name like Jasper?" Really, Dad? He was never good with names, so Ronaldo quickly became Raldo, and that's all he called him. Kentley Henderson, 4 years later, the apple of Granddad's eye, mainly, as Wendy said, because he spent the most time with his grandfather when she was working overseas. Kentley will provide his own tribute, so I won't preempt that. The last grandchild came 2 years later, another boy, Nicholas, or Little Nickel, as Granddad referred to him. He lives in the USA, so like his brother, it was pet talk time when he came to Barbados to visit. It was always special when Daddy had all his grandchildren together, and he would put them in the open back truck and take them all down to the beach. Fun times that they thoroughly enjoyed. Daddy had a few quality years with his two great grands, Seneve and Asher. They're presently 5 and 4 respectively. By the time they came along, Daddy was practically half deaf, so he never got their names correct. It was Seneva and Assad. Don't care how much you told him, that was what it was. Daddy loved family gatherings. We used to do annual picnics to Three Houses Park. Sometimes we would just prepare Sunday lunch and head to Farley Hill. And he never missed the little ones' birthday parties. He loved our Christmas lunches. He always wondered why we did the big spread only at Christmas and not more often because that's when everybody came together. I remember at Christmas he would wake up, erect the tent in the backyard, go to the gas station and buy ice and French vanilla ice cream, or he would even buy the biggest leg ham he could put his hands on. After we ate, all you could hear was laughter. Daddy had a warped sense of humor. Daddy and the boys would be having their private jokes. He telling them of his boyhood escapades, and when the boys became men, the conversations were sprinkled with dirty jokes. Daddy was also very controversial, and Kirk loved to egg him on. He loved the game of hearts or dominoes, which he taught all of us to play. Daddy was generous to a fault. He always wanted to share whatever he was eating, even when we visited him in the nursing home. We used to refer to him as Wendy said, old money bags. Of course, he never knew this. Whenever any of us or the children visited, we would leave with what he termed as a little berry. He would take out his wallet and start peeling off the 50s and the $100 bills. Although Daddy was tough with us, he was like putty with his children, grandchildren, soft. You could not believe it. Daddy, we know we made you proud. You never admitted it, but we know that you secretly touted all our accomplishments to your friends. Farewell, Dad. You are gone, but will never be forgotten. Your legacy will live on.
So where do I begin? My earliest memories of Daddy was a fun dad who played with me after work. I remember he used to put me on his back and crawl around the living room, and he used to let me comb his hair and plait it without complaint. I used to go to work with Daddy a lot, and I particularly loved when we went to Nicholas Abbey, because before coming home, we would go to Cherry Tree Hill and look out at the East Coast, and he'd tell me all sorts of stories. Some of my other standout memories was having dinner sat outside in Kentucky at Black Rock, and that was after the races on Saturday. And sorry, Mum, I was not supposed to tell you that. And sometimes we used to go for ice cream as well. But Daddy was strict, and we grew up with so many rules. And I remember once I was told not to do cartwheels in the house. Did I listen? No. And inevitably I injured myself and couldn't walk properly for weeks. And during that time, Daddy faithfully took me to school and brought me home every day without mentioning my little mishap. So he was a caring dad. I remember when I decided to move to England, it was Daddy who supported that decision, and he encouraged me to spread my wings and fly. But Daddy had his flaws. He didn't know how to relate to young ladies, meaning that there were some challenging times. But it was in those times that I grew my resilience and I became independent. And we as sisters, we grew an unbreakable bond. But despite those times, we always knew that Daddy loved us and he loved his family. And and we always had some fun times, like on Sundays and after lunch, when he would play music, a love that we all share. Daddy always wanted the best for us, and he wanted us to be successful. He may not have told us how proud he was of us. He kept that to share with all of his friends. I'm not sure what his definition of success was, but today, I see success in this chapel. The 5 girls who love and respect each other and are there for each other through thick and thin. And though we are dispersed, we speak every day. Daddy, I wish I had one more opportunity to see you, to hear your voice, to see your smile, and to hear your cynical laugh when you watch documentaries and wildlife documentaries. You will always be in my heart. Rest in peace.
Jasper, Jassy, Mahon, Arnie, Mahon, Daddy, Brenda. These are all names which Brenda used to go by different people. And it set me thinking that we've all seen different sides of him, different aspects of him. And what I like to do is to give you all a brief glimpse into how I saw Grandad. Now, Grandad was me from the jump. And when first came home from the hospital, him and Granny were so worried about how tired she would be that they slept the water out with her. Granny was sharing the bed with my mom. I was in the crib. Grandad slept on the floor. Little did I know that old man sleeping on the floor would become a staple scene in my life. Granny and Grandad had a massive hand in raising me. And it's only as an adult looking back that I can now realize how much it was. For the first 21 years of my life, they were an absolute constant. Whether it was Granny picking me up from primary school or me working with Grandad during the summer, they were there. And in those 21 years, Mommy, Granny, and Grandad have shaped me basically into the man I am today. Each one of them gave me advice and life lessons, which I continue to use every day consciously, or as I've realized since Grandad's passing, unconsciously as well. In honor of Grandad, I am going to share 2 pieces of advice which he has left to me that have impacted the way I've done things more often than I can count. And I've actually saved my skin many times in my life. Now, for the first one, I'm going to paint a bit of a scene for you on how the interactions were between my grandfather and I. Now, this is the summer. I was probably 12 or 13. Grandad had a job up in St. Lucie. This is my mate. Mate was a carpenter, Grandad was a carpenter by trade. Mate needed help putting on the roof. And we used to go every morning, make normal, leave home at 7:30, head up the road. First 2 weeks, I pretty much just spent exploring. Exploring the house, exploring the environment. Usually at the beginning of every site, Grandad would give me the do's and the don'ts, where to walk, where not to walk, etc. I spent the first 2 weeks exploring. Then as Grandad and mate started to get the rafters put in, I started putting the beams as well. Beams and rafters. They started to put in the, I'm not sure, can't remember what you call them exactly, but the lafts, like basically the support structures between the beams themselves. So you will have the long beams coming on the side of the house, and they're actually on the inside. You wouldn't see them, but there are beams in, there are little blocks in between them for support. So while doing this, Grandad was teaching me how to use measurements. Not like centimeters and meters at school, although he did give me a lesson on those as well. But in this particular scenario, he was teaching me about inches and feet. I was always fascinated at how Grandad could glance at a tape measure and know if something was 9 7/8 or 9 15/16. I mean, the old man had like 40 years plus experience experience as a carpenter and dealing with tape measures like was a given. But he was teaching me. And I remember on this job in particular, it was a pull-down saw. Pull-down saw, you bring it down, cut it 2x4, and that will give you a little support section. Now, at first, I just used to watch Grandad. As I obviously got more exploring, I can see what he was doing more often. And as he was teaching me, I remember the time I asked him if I could, cut the wood. He was like, all right, come on over. And before doing anything at all, Grandad always made sure that I knew exactly what he was using. He showed me everything for it. He unplugged the saw, and the man showed me every part. He showed me the guard, how the guard works. He showed me how to change the different angles to cut the wood. Showed me obviously where the flicker switch, where the power switch was. He even showed me how to change the blade. Because he believed if you want to work with something, you need to know exactly everything. You need to know everything. And the first time we came around, cut the wood. And after 5, 6, 7, he was like, all right, you can't do this by yourself now. Man said, do something missing. So I started doing it myself, him supervising me. And he was like, you know what? It's fine. So then we started a little system. Like I said, he was teaching me the measurements. So he would give me a block of wood and he would have one like, maybe called 6 or 7 different measurements on them. For the sizes that image he wanted the little support piece cut. And I would go off and put them up. Bring it back in the bucket, hand them up one by one, he nailed everything together, take the next set of measurements, write them down, rinse and repeat. One particular time I took the bucket to him, and he went to put a block up, and the block was short. And he was like, and he measured it, and he was like, Ken, what I told you? I was like, look at my oldest block. He was like, oh, homework. 9 3/4. Not a direct hard-quarter reference, by the way. But 9 3/4. And he was like, but can't this piece of wood is 9 1/4? And I was like, what happened? And I was like, well, I guess I messed up by accident, sorry, Granddad. He was like, all right, hold on. And he came down. And I was like, all right, we need to understand what's going to happen. The man said, this block of wood, the man said, I will probably never use this, and we're going to throw this away. This is a waste of money. Because the only place this block of wood can now fit is any space that is 9 1/4 or smaller. And we don't have many of those. Most of the measurements like beams, you try to keep it between the 10, I think it was aiming between like 9 and like 11, so it's not, it's too far apart. See, like what I'm going to use again, this is a waste of wood. And you can't really waste wood because it is declines money, etc. He was like, all right, let me show you something. Master, from now on, if you ever feel shaky about it, remember, measure twice, cut once. And if you're still feeling shaky after you measure the second time, obviously you don't want to hold up, measuring back and forth. He said, just cut it just a little bit bigger than what you think it's supposed to be, and we could always trim it. Because it's easier to cut the wood, shorten it, than it is to add to it. That advice, measure twice, cut once, has saved my skin more times than I can genuinely come. Especially at work. Especially I love it. He said, if you don't know what it is and you don't know how to waste time, just add a little bit of pattern to it. Saving more time than it come. Second piece of advice I want going to the story, a massive story behind it. As another time saver, another life saver. And so Grant knew I was always a very lazy person. I mean, I'm lazy. Like, I'm probably one of the laziest you will ever meet in your life. Hands down. I remember the time Grant gave me a couple of little odd jobs to do. And he was like, you walk past, see nothing done. Can't they actually move these nails? Da, 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 da. I was like, what happened? And I was like, all right, can't listen to me. If a job is going to take you 5 minutes or less, it will actually save you time if you just do it. You won't have to remember it. You won't have to do it later on. You know you have the free time now. If it's going to take 5 minutes or less, just do it. That has saved my skin countless times. Like I said, I'm a lady person. Two of those are some of the advice that Brian left me over the years. And a lot of stuff he left me, it goes straight through my life. How I approach certain situations, how I'm able to observe and analyze the fact I take time to learn to know what's going on before jumping into it, before I hurt myself. All of these are priceless, genuinely priceless. So I thought I'd pass these on to you all. Honestly, as I have conversations with like my mom and stuff like that, I realize this whole man used to look after me, even when I didn't know. University, college, he used to be doing so many things in the background that I never knew, just trying his best to help me along the way. And I don't even know that I can actually start to see it. And while I was thinking about it, I was a bit upset that I would never get to talk to Granddad as an adult. I would never get to speak to Granddad as a man who has been through experiences in life, lived in a different country, got a successful relationship. I know what a bill is, and hopefully you still know what a mortgage looks like. I will never get to speak to him about these things. But the thing is, right, is that I can treasure every single memory I have of Granddad right now. Every single one. And I literally see parts of him every day. The influence he's had on my life. Like, he always used to go on about martial arts and protect yourself. Because he did judo back in the day. I studied martial arts. I got a black belt in kickboxing. Influence from Granddad. And that is an example, like, it's all through my life. I am gonna miss that old man a lot. I really will. I know the same way how I couldn't see how he looked after me before when I was younger. I can't see how he's gonna look after me now. Whether he's up or down. Yes, if he was here, he would chuckle at that joke. Wherever he is, whatever kind of existence, I know he can look after me. And I know that when the time comes and I'm able to see how he look after me, how he's gonna look after me, sorry. The same how able to look back now, how he was able to look after me before. I think it'd be interesting. And I want to get back up. Have a million jokes. And I can show him what I've been doing. Show him my daughter's girlfriend who you sadly never meet. Show him how far I've gotten in life with his guidance. Until then, RIP Granddad. Gonna miss you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jane Mahon Edwards. I am Jasper's cousin. Unfortunately, because of COVID-19 and other restrictions, I am unable to travel from New York to Barbados at this time. I therefore take this opportunity to pay tribute to my dear cousin and friend, Jasper Mahon. I spent many happy times in Jasper's presence. In 1998, we made a trip together to Venezuela. I remember my nieces driving us up into the mountains, and the higher we climbed, the happier Jasper became. That day we picnicked on top of the mountain, and it was Jasper's delight to look down into the valley. He had no fear of heights. Another fond memory of time spent with my cousin was the trip from New York City to Canada by Amtrak train. Jasper was fascinated with the scenic view along the way, but in particular, the spectacular view of Niagara Falls from the bridge that connects the US to Canada. Jasper was funny, he was hilarious, he had a quirky sense of humor that kept you laughing. When Jasper made a statement that was way off, I would say, "But Jasper, that isn't true." And he would say, "Ma, don't tell me it is true." And you did not argue anymore with Jasper. When it came to dancing, my cousin had two left feet, which went in different directions. And he swore he was the greatest dancer ever. Ask his wife Joyce about that. Jasper and I share the same birth month. But as you know, Jasper didn't celebrate birthdays. One year I decided to call him anyway to wish him a happy birthday. I said, "Jasper, I'm calling to wish you a happy birthday." I was waiting to hear him say, "I don't believe in that." But to my surprise, he said, "Jean, I am so happy to hear from you. I will miss my cousin, but God saw fit to call me home." On behalf of the Mahon families in New York, South Carolina, New Jersey, Venezuela, and Canada, we extend our sincere condolences to Jasper's wife Joyce, his daughters, Anne, Wendy, Linda, Janet, and Sue, his grandchildren and great-grandchildren. May Jasper's soul rest in peace. Thank you.
To my family and friends, fill not your hearts with pain and sorrow, but remember me in every tomorrow. Remember the joy, the laughter, the smile. I've only gone to rest a little while. Although my leaving causes pain and grief, my going has eased my hurt and given me relief. So dry your eyes and remember me, not as I am now, but as I used to be. Because I will remember you all and look on with a smile, understanding in your heart I've only gone to rest a little while. As long as I have the love of each of you, I can live my life in the hearts of all of you.
Okay, we've come to the end of our tributes to Jasper Mahon. And on behalf of the family, Joyce, his wife, Angela, Wendy, Linda, Janet, and Susan, his daughters, his cherished grandchildren and great-grands, I want to extend thanks to all of you who came to pay your last respects, those of you who viewed the live stream, those of you who helped in one way or the other, sent words of comfort, sent a card, or simply prayed for us. Thank you, Anthony, Adrian, and Renee for helping us with the streaming. And I'd also like to thank Ian and the staff of Earl's Funeral Home. Thanks to all concerned, and I want to extend blessings to all. Thank you.
Quando sono solo sogno all'orizzonte mancano le parole. Sì, lo so che non c'è luce in una stanza quando manca il sole. Se non ci sei tu con me, sì. Le finestre mostrar tutto il mio cuore che è acceso. Chiudi dentro me la luce che ho incontrato per strada. Time to say goodbye. Paesi che non ho mai veduto e vissuto con te. Adesso sì vivrò con te, partirò. Sullavi per mari che io lo so, non esistono più. It's time to say goodbye.
Quando sei lontana sogno all'orizzonte e manca le parole. Io sì lo so che sei con me, tu mia luna, tu sei qui con me. Mio sole, tu sei qui con me, con me, con me, con me. Time to say goodbye. Paesi che non ho mai veduto e vissuto con te. Adesso sì li vivrò con te. Partirò su navi per mari che io lo so, non esistono più. Con te io li vivrò, con te partirò. Su navi per mari che io lo so, non esistono più. Con te io li vivrò, con te partirò.
way by the ocean floor, building castles in the shifting sand, in a world that no one understands. In the morning, it's the morning of my life. It's the morning of my life. It's the morning of my life. The minutes stay so long away. Please be patient with your life. It's only morning and you still to live your day. In the evening, I will fly you to the moon, to the dark night and corner of the ceiling night, where we stay until the sun shines another day. Just wait on close line, may I be young. It's the morning of my life. It's the morning of my life. In the morning, in the morning, in the morning.